and went to his dorm room on campus. I knocked on the door, holding our daughter. A woman answered the door, and when he saw me, he froze. r/prorevenge. What is up, guys? Mr. Reddit here, back with another episode of Pro Revenge Stories. r/prorevenge is one of my favorite subreddits, and I really enjoyed making this. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Our first story we'll be reading today. Cheat on me? You'll get deported, arrested, and never see your child again. After that, we'll be reading Grumpy Telemarketer Gets a Surprise Call Back. And after that, Pro Revenge on Me. Then we'll be heading over to Petty Revenge to read Since You Want to Judge Me for Taking the Second Floor, Have Fun Waiting for the Elevator. And then we'll be finishing up with Knock on My Door, Despite My No Soliciting Sign, Just Sit on the Curb and Forget About Selling Anything in My Town for the rest of your day. Welcome to our new subscribers, Poseidon's Ninja, Shy, and Sebastian. And if you're new, subscribe now for new stories from Reddit every single day. Cheat on me? You'll get deported, arrested, and never see your child again. Note, edit, I am not American, and ICE was not involved in any way, as this did not occur in the United States. As well, my ex-boyfriend and I are both white, so there was no racial motivation. I've read a lot of these and listened to some amazing narrators on YouTube, so decided to post the story of my ex-boyfriend. Throwaway account for obvious reasons, apologies for the long story. I edited out as much as I could, so the story isn't too long. Also, apologies if this is the wrong subreddit. I'm a little new to all of this. My ex-boyfriend and I are both native-born citizens of the same country in North America. We got together when I was still in post-secondary working towards my degree, and he was taking some time before he started post-secondary to work and save up money. Our relationship was basically perfect from my perspective. We had similar goals and expectations. We both seemed mature and able to work through any problems we had, and we both were happy to be together and enjoyed each other's personalities. We were together for 3 years prior to this incident. Our relationship hit a bit of a rough patch, though, when he told me he wanted to study for his degree at a university in Europe. I, of course, was a little bit upset because it meant that we would be apart for 4 years. My job field, medical, would require me to retake schooling if I was to go with him. But he was super excited about it, and we determined that we loved each other and no amount of distance could change that. With time, I graduated and got my dream job, and I could now afford to rent our shared apartment with just my income, so I didn't have to move when he was no longer there to pay his half. He was having some problems with his student visa for the country, but it was determined that he could get a temporary visa for the first semester while we waited for the other one to be approved. So with that, he left. I remember bawling my eyes out at the airport when I hugged and kissed him goodbye, and parked outside of the airport to watch his plane take off. We talked on the phone almost every night. As unlucky as it was, about 5 weeks after he left, I found out I was pregnant. Horrible timing, I know. When I told him I was pregnant, he immediately accused me of cheating on him while he was gone. I thought it was a bit odd, since he had never even mentioned such a thing, and it seemed really out of the blue. That obviously led to a big fight, and I felt offended and disgusted that he would even consider it a possibility. When he came home for Christmas, he was super happy and lovey-dovey with me, saying he was excited. He even proposed to me on the car ride home from his parents' house on Christmas Eve. I was so happy and overjoyed that it felt like everything would work out okay. When he went back to school, it was again stressful to go through the pregnancy without him. But both his parents and mine were incredibly supportive. They helped me get everything I needed for the baby, and even threw me a surprise baby shower. When I gave birth, my ex watched it over Skype from his mom. When he finished his exams, he came home to be with us. He immediately started talking negative about our daughter, saying things like, "Why is her hair that color? My hair is brown," and "Doesn't she have your friend's eyes?" And he again accused me of cheating. So I reluctantly agreed to perform a paternity test to calm his suspicions. Wow, could you believe it? She was his. He agreed to pay informal child support, sending me money to pay for the baby without a lawful order to do so while he was overseas. Now for the fun part. His student visa had still not been approved, so he had to reapply for another temporary semester visa for the next semester. Since he did not have a permanent residence in the country, as he was staying in student accommodations, and he didn't trust the university to not go through official-looking mail, he redirected all of his mail to me, which I would forward to the university in his care packages. When he came to visit us, he had applied for a new passport, as his was going to expire in 6 months. I was tasked with picking it up at the office and sending it forward. However, around midterm exam season, I decided our daughter and I would travel to deliver the care package in person and visit. I had to get her an infant passport and book the tickets, but a couple months later, we were getting on a plane. Side note, traveling with a baby sucks, and I'm sorry to everyone else on the plane. When we got to the country, I settled into our hotel, but was too eager to see him. I taxied to his university, only about 45 minutes from the airport, and went to his dorm room on campus. I knocked on the door, holding our daughter. A woman answered the door. At first, I assumed it was his roommate or something, but I don't remember him mentioning he had one. Denial is a powerful thing, I guess. I asked her where he was, and she said he was inside and called out to him. I heard a, "Who is it, babe?" as he came to the door, and when he saw me, he froze. He went pale and his eyes widened. The woman asked him, "Honey, who is this?" And I just turned and walked away. He called out after me and eventually caught up with me. He basically told me that he's been so lonely without me and he couldn't help it and that he loved me and not her, to which she started yelling at him, calling him a pig and stuff. My baby started crying because I was crying, and so I just left without saying anything. I stayed in the hotel for another day, while he continuously called me on my cell phone. I booked last-minute tickets home and left early and ignored every time he called me. I gave myself a week to grieve, and then I put my big girl pants on. I immediately hired a lawyer and asked him what I could do to legally separate my life from him. In my country, we were considered common law married. My lawyer advised me to begin the legal separation process and apply for a hearing about custody and child support. I sent him a thick manila envelope with separation papers and a notice for a hearing about custody in his next package. We talked on the phone on speaker with my lawyer, and he eventually agreed to sign. He sent me a copy. The hearing was scheduled while school was in session, so no surprise he didn't show up. I won full custody, and he was given an order to pay child support appropriate for his income. He was paying for his college with a grant mostly, so he had to pay based on the grant. Now, this is some revenge, but it went a little further. Remember when I went to see him? I was bringing a care package. That package contained his new passport. His passport expired, and he was still in Europe, so he couldn't travel back to our home country legally. He yelled at me on the phone to send him the passport, but I got an idea. He hadn't been paying the child support, probably because he couldn't afford it with tuition and he wasn't working. So he had a warrant for his arrest in my home country because of it, contempt of court or something. And he had never been approved for a student visa, only the temporary one. And since his final exam concluded and it was summer, he technically wasn't supposed to even be in Europe. But he couldn't travel home because he didn't have a passport. It would be a shame if someone anonymously reported him to the embassy for overstaying his visa, now wouldn't it? He got deported back to our home country, where he was arrested at the border. I don't know exactly what happened, but he spent a couple months on probation and, with a criminal record, can no longer apply for a visa of any kind to study abroad. Sorry about that future of yours, but I guess you shouldn't cheat on someone who loves you to the ends of the earth, the mother of your child. Have a nice life, because we sure will. Oh, and don't forget to put that check in the mail. It's paying for a little girl's future education. Note: for those people saying that I'm abusing my daughter, I'm not. Since returning, her father has never reached out to me and has made no indication that he wants to see his daughter. He has a relationship with his parents, who adore her as grandparents do, but he has not tried to reconnect personally. As well, if he did want to see her in the future, I would be okay with it. He is her father after all. Next up we've got, Grumpy Telemarketer gets a surprise call back. Here's my encounter with a crappy telemarketing company. I cut some details because this could have been twice as long. Names are changed and all that BS. Let me start by saying that I get a ton of calls from card services. Forget those guys. This story has nothing to do with them. I like to mess with scammers, so I often take their calls and string them along for my own amusement. I know it probably makes them call me more, but it's the burden I bear to supply my hobby. A couple of days ago, I got a call from some BS company wanting to extend my car warranty. The company has a name on file with my phone number, and they think I'm Mr. Jones. I am not Mr. Jones. I am his son. I guess technically I am Mr. Jones, but not the one they think I am. Let me get on with it. The agent runs through her spiel for a couple minutes, and I plainly say, I'm not Mr. Jones. To this, she replies,
Why didn't you tell me at the beginning of the call?
And she hangs up. Jerk. Now at this point, I assumed the number was spoofed, but since they sounded American, I called it back. Even though the number was in my area code, it rings straight into their system, and I'm greeted with, Hello, Mr. Jones. Can you verify the make and model of your vehicle? I reply that I am calling to report that an agent just hung up on me. Then they hang up on me. Jerks. So I call back. A lot. They are clearly frustrated. This one grumpy guy answers, and to throw him off guard on an unrelated topic, I ask, Are you voting for Trump in 2020? He replies, Hell yeah, I am while you're gonna be on Brokeback Mountain. Or something stupid like that a Trump supporter would say and hangs up. I call back and get grumpy guy again, and he's clearly frustrated. He asks if I don't have anything better to do, to which I reply, No. At this point, he informs me that I will now be placed on the permanent call list and I will receive a call daily after hours, to which I reply, Don't you have anything better to do? Grumpy guy tells me he gets paid by the hour, so he doesn't care and hangs up. So I call back. At this point, the seemingly small office staff have recruited the big guns out of a desperate frustration to end my calls and sell me a damn warranty on a 2003 car with 180,000 miles. Enter Roger. Roger is a salesman. He's persistent as heck with his pitch, so I start to accuse Roger of working for a scam company. Roger seems to have a passion for this company, and when I ask for a website, he gives it to me. To my surprise, they have their services listed on the site, but the name is not the name they're using on calls, and the domain is only 2 years old. The name also has absolutely nothing to do with cars or warranties or anything remotely close to what they're offering. I concede to Roger that I believe him when he says they are a legitimate company, albeit a crappy one, on par with the ilk of payday lenders, and we reach a point of mutual respect. Roger is polite with me, so I'm polite with him. Now we're friends. I explain to him my history with scammers, and I tell him that the reason I've been calling incessantly is because one of his agents hung up on me. Roger is not pleased, and he says he thinks he knows who she is and he'll talk to her. Goodbye, Roger. Have a good day. Set the stage to 7 p.m., and I'm on the phone with my wife. My phone starts buzzing, and I check to see who's calling, and it's a restricted number. I tell my wife I'll call her back. She knows I love messing with scammers, and I take the call. I say hello twice, and then hear these words I'll never forget. Remember me, jerk? Permanent call list. And I proceed to laugh out loud with delight at the absurd notion that Grumpy Dude has actually followed through with his grand plan of calling me at a mildly inconvenient time. He hangs up. Now, one key detail that Grumpy Dude is likely unaware of is that I now have a friendly relationship with his manager who seems to actually take pride in his job. I also know the number to his call center because I called it about 1,000,000 times that morning. There really was no need for Grumpy Dude to use a restricted number. Naturally, the only thing I can do here is to call my new friend Roger and let him know how his employees are spending their company time. I call the number and am greeted with, Hello, Mr. Jones. Can you verify the make and model of your vehicle? I ask to speak to Roger. The lady says, I can help you. So I tell her that one of her associates just called me from a restricted number so he could call me a mean name. She said, Let me transfer you to Roger. Roger answers and I say, Hello, Roger. Do you remember me from our talk earlier? He does. And so I tell him that prior to our conversation, Grumpy Dude put me on the permanent call list. I then describe Grumpy Dude as an old grumpy dude and ask him if he might know the agent I'm referring to. Roger declines to name names because he doesn't want to single out his employees based on their age, and I respect that. I then tell him that Grumpy Dude, in fact, just called me from a restricted number so that he could simply call me a mean name. I offer to email Roger the recorded call, but he declines, as we've built a respectful relationship based on trust and civility. Roger then interrupts me and says, "Hold on a second, let me look into this." A few minutes later, he gets back on the phone and says the gentleman, Grumpy Dude, just confirmed my story and that his behavior is unacceptable. He tells me that Grumpy Dude will definitely be written up for this behavior as it is quite unacceptable. I reiterate, I thought Roger would be deeply troubled to find out that his employees were behaving this way, as they represent a totally 100% legitimate business enterprise, and this would reflect quite poorly on them. He thanked me for my call and apologized for the situation. Forget you, Grumpy Dude. I hope that was your last write-up. Next, we've got prorevenge on me. So I'm gonna bite my pride a bit here and tell you a story of the time I destroyed my mother's brand new 52-inch plasma HD TV, among many other things, and how she taught me a lesson. Backstory: I'm 26 now. I was a huge turd as a teenager, skipping classes, drinking at a friend's house at 16 while skipping those classes, disrespectful to literally everyone, rebellious to the max. I never did anything big-time criminal, but no one wanted to be around me because of my crappy attitude. My mother and stepfather had a hard time with me from the age of 14 through 18. My parents hated guns and weapons of any kind. As a rebellious teenager, on my 18th birthday, I was old enough to buy my own weapons, so naturally I bought one completely out of spite. A cheap air rifle and 2,000 pellets. Total cost of about $300, Christmas and birthday money. My mom didn't know. When she was at work, I would take my air rifle out and do some target practice in the yard. I shot tin cans and glass bottles, typical target stuff, always outside as I never wanted her to find out. One fine summer day, while my mom was at work, I took out my air rifle and did the usual target practice. After a few shots, I loaded again. As I was about to aim, a friend came to my back fence and I got distracted. We chatted for a bit and I asked him to come in. I picked up my air rifle and went in. The layout of my mom's house is very open. You can see into the living room from the kitchen where the back door was. We went into the kitchen and I put my still fully loaded air rifle on the kitchen table. I had not put the safety on. It went off. I had no idea where the shot went. We checked the walls and there were no holes, so we gave up. No one checked the dead center of the brand new TV my mom had bought the week before. Here was my biggest mistake. I left the house and went to my friends for the night, as I sometimes did. My mother got home and saw that I had left the rifle on the table. She later told me that she saw the hole in the TV instantly after seeing where the barrel was pointed. Now the revenge. My mother found the thousands of pellets on the picnic table out back where I was shooting and the many broken items I didn't clean up. She took every single item she could carry out from my bedroom, lined them up on the picnic table, and Googled how to shoot an air rifle. She shot every single item in my bedroom. Blankets, pillows, figurines, PS3, everything, even my mattress. She used every pellet on the stuff. I got back home the next day and went up to my room. I was shocked. Everything was either shattered or had many holes. I found my rifle cut into hundreds of pieces. We were screaming at each other. She threw my clothes, which she didn't end up shooting, and kicked me out. We didn't speak for over a year. I deserved what I got 100%. Thankfully, after a year, I showed up on her doorstep. I really missed my mom and my stepfather, and she welcomed me in without hesitation, and we made up and I apologized, and we are on the best of terms. After I came home, I found some work at a landscaping company, and 6 weeks after starting out, I bought her a brand new 52-inch plasma TV with a bonus surround sound system. Next, we've got some petty revenge. Since you want to judge me for taking the second floor, have fun waiting for the elevator. I was waiting at the elevators. Didn't take too long since my apartment building is not that big. I get inside, and right when the door closes, a hand pushes through. She looked like your typical middle-aged Karen. She presses the 17th floor, and she takes one look at my floor, which was on the second. She scoffs, glares at me, and says,
The second floor? Really?
Didn't take much to piss me off. Her comment was so unnecessary and uncalled for. Who cares if it was the second floor? It's my decision whether to take the stairs or not. I just finished an overnight shift and I was exhausted. I guess my exhaustion made me extra moody because when I reached my floor, she was scrolling through her phone. I quickly ran my hands through as many buttons as I could and said, "Have fun, jerk," right when the door closed. And because I was extra exhausted, therefore extra moody and petty, I pressed the up button when the elevator barely reached the 3rd floor so I can use the other elevator and press a bunch of buttons again to further inconvenience her just in case she decided to get off on the 3rd floor to take the other elevator. Take the stairs then if it's not that big of a deal. Just don't be rude to your neighbors for riding the elevators to the 2nd floor. You don't know if they're exhausted or if they have non-visible health conditions that make it hard for them to take the stairs. And our final story of the day. Knock on my door despite my no solicitation sign? Just sit on the curb and forget about selling anything in my town for the rest of your day. We moved into a new cookie-cutter neighborhood, and since then, we have been bothered by pest control, carpet cleaners, lawn care, solar panel firms, etc. This was multiple times a day at first, but then we put up a no soliciting sign, and for a while, it worked pretty well. Fast forward to this week. Salespeople have rang my doorbell daily despite my sign. I started by chewing them out and finding their business online to leave bad Yelp and Google reviews about the encounter. Then I researched city ordinances. Apparently, they need a permit most don't have, and they can't ignore a no soliciting sign. It's $250 per violation. Awesome. Had my first victim yesterday, who acknowledged he read my sign but thought his info about solar panels was something I'd want to hear even though I specifically had a sign because I didn't want to be bothered. I chewed him out and when he left, called police non-emergency number. The police came after only 15 minutes and caught up with him down the street. I don't know if he was cited, but he just sat on the curb after the police left, probably because they told him to stop knocking on doors, period, due to a lack of permit. He had to wait there for at least an hour and a half for his ride.
Leave a comment that says "Read" so Mr. Reddit can give you a heart. Or I will be speaking to your manager. For extra fun, leave replies to other comments by saying "Re."
I'm serious, you guys. I want to see more reads than we've ever seen before. That's all for now, but don't be blue. I'll be back soon with more stories for you. Remember to listen to Mr. Reddit every night so your dreams will be wonderful like you are and bright.